welcome to Stack, the books podcast that is here to cut through the noise and share with you curated lists of the books we know are worth your time. I'm Ella and I work in book publishing.
My name is Jake. I'm a writer and a podcast producer. In every episode, we'll be building a themed stack of books we love. This week's theme is weird little books. Before that, Ella, this week, reading, not reading, what have you been up to?
Reading a bit. I read The Binding.
Did you enjoy it?
My little present.
Your
Yeah, I
present?
really enjoyed it. Definitely had a misinterpretation of what it was going to be about. I think the queer romance strand of it was such a nice surprise. So I really loved it. But actually what has been obsessing me this week is the BBC Sounds podcast, Anatomy of a Cancellation.
Heard of that, haven't listened yet. Are you enjoying?
Were you familiar with the debacle?
Yeah, I
that
was.
the podcast covers. So if you are not aware, it is about the quote unquote cancellation of Kate Clancy, who wrote a book a few years ago, Some Kids I Taught and Some Kids Who Taught Me. The podcast kind of unpicks this cancellation or kind of disappearing of Kate Clancy from her life as a writer. She was subject to criticism about the language used in the book to describe some children that she'd taught. Things escalated online and offline for her. She's ended up cutting ties with her publisher, and the podcast series, it's only 6 episodes, half an hour each, and each episode is from a different perspective, kind of talking about, is there such a thing as being cancelled? Was Kate Clancy cancelled? Was she right to be cancelled? And what I loved about it was that each episode changed slightly how I felt about it. So I loved it. I stormed through it. I think I listened to it in maybe just a day.
Oh, wow.
I know, that's quite a
hours.
binge. Yeah.
I've also got a podcast recommendation.
Great.
Are you a fan of Jenny Slate?
Who's Jenny Slate?
She is an actor, writer, comedian. She was in Parks and Rec. She's got some stand-up specials. She also, you might know her as the voice of Marcel the Shell with shoes on.
Oh my God, I love
There we
Marcel
go.
the
I
Shell
knew
with
that. I
shoes
knew
on.
you would have that as your reference point.
Did you know that? I know that.
I just thought that if Ella's met Jenny Slate, it's going to have been through Shell.
And Marcel the Shell has a feature-length film. I watched it quite recently.
Yeah, really good.
Yeah, it's quite heartbreaking.
Well, she's brilliant, and she's got a new podcast called I Need You Guys with 2 of her friends she's known for years, and they just talk. I mean, there's some serious stuff in there, but they just talk. Yeah. It's a podcast. They just talk like real nonsense, and they're really funny, and they've got all their in-jokes, but you feel part of the gang.
And any reading, or should we just stick with podcasts today?
We'll just talk about podcasts.
I've been so excited about this theme.
I think it might be one of our best themes on the list.
And not just so far, but ever.
That we'll ever do.
That we'll ever do. So the theme is weird little books.
And what, Ella, what do we mean by weird little books?
It's got to be short.
It's got to be short.
For a start, it's got to be short. I had started with, I tried to make them under 200 pages.
Yeah.
But then I had one that snuck slightly over 200 pages.
Yeah, I've got one that's slightly
good.
over.
But I think it has to be something that you could feasibly read in one sitting.
Yeah, which I think is like a very unique reading experience.
And speaking of unique reading experiences, I think there has to, for me, when I was thinking of my choices, you have to have a moment where you think, what am I reading?
For the weirdness.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I've looked at some of the reviews for some of mine, and they say things like word soup. That's the kind of bar I've gone for.
Is your reading weird generally?
I think not weird. I think I've got a limited capacity for weird, and that's why I think the weirder books that I've read are short, because I think a long weird book loses me quite quickly. Well, shall we get into it? Because
let's get weird. Okay, Ella, so my first book is probably my weirdest of the 3.
Great.
We've
good
gone
start.
for Fien Veldman hard copy. Subtitle: This is a story of girl meets printer. So this is translated from the Dutch by Hester Velmans. And one of the quotes online about this is, "This might be the weird book to end all weird girl books."
Okay, it's a tough act to follow, isn't it? You're starting us off with a big...
I'm going big.
How short is it?
This one is slightly over 200 pages, so it's not that short.
But on the weird scale,
on the weird, it's a 10.
Okay.
We're going forward. This is a book about a woman who works in an office. She has her own like private office with a printer in. This was kind of pitched when I first heard about it as like she's in love with the printer.
Okay.
And I think when I was voice noting you about when I was about halfway through this, and I was saying, as of yet, she has not had sex with the printer.
Which is up there with the weirdest messages I've ever had.
Yeah. Which is, I think, where I thought this was going to go. I thought it would just be shocking. She's obsessed with printer. What happens? Actually, it's quite like a slow
burn love story.
Love story between a girl and a printer. It's kind of about a woman who's like really struggling in the workplace. as you learn about her past traumas, you gain a lot into her psyche around her really struggling in the modern workplace. And it's actually more about that than purely printer obsession.
That sounds normal. So is it a very hard swerve? Where does it seem like you're reading a normal book about a girl struggling at work, and then we hard swerve into, man, I like the look of that printer?
You know from quite early on that she has an odd relationship with the printer.
How does that manifest?
Just like obsessive and caring and the anthropomorphizing of the printer.
Does she say thank you to it?
She talks to the printer. There's a moment when the manager calls her into the office and says, you're taking personal phone calls, and she has to work out whether she's going to say, oh yeah, I've been taking personal phone calls, sorry, or whether she says, no, I haven't taken personal phone calls. I've been doing my work, but I've been talking to the printer.
What does she decide, or is that a spoiler?
I won't. It's such a short book that I think we don't want to give
spoiler.
too many plot points away. But I just really enjoyed it. I thought like the idea of like weird girl books where someone is being really weird for the sake of it, actually like the kind of deep feeling of her like not fitting into this workplace that she has to go into 5 times a week actually felt quite relatable. Like that felt quite like a real, like someone really struggling and trying to, and like the manifestation of the printer obsession is kind of how her mind is dealing with these feelings.
My first book is This Is How You Lose the Time War by Amal, El-Mohtar and Max Gladstone, co-authored. Have you read?
I have read. How, well, for you, how weird?
This isn't my weirdest one
on
the stack. It is, because it's written through letters, which I'll come on to a bit more, that gives you some grounding in the structure of it. So even though like what they're saying is kind of quite abstract and kind of defies physics of our world, the letters are always, you're always bringing back to kind of
hearing from each person.
Do you? Yeah, exactly. So it is weird though, and it's 208 pages. So this is my one that just creeps in. I'm giving it like an 8 out of 10 weird. And it's an absolute kind of cult phenomenon and perennial bestseller. So new readers are coming to it all the time. I'll give you a little bit on the plot, but again, I'm going to keep it tight so as not to give too much away. So it's set, the characters are 2 agents who we call Red and Blue, and they are traveling back and forth through time, altering the history of multiple universes on behalf of their warring empires, because each of the empires they work for, their timelines are mutually exclusive. So each of them, so are you with me?
I think so. I have read this, so I should be with you.
Yeah. So it's kind of, if you've read Ministry of Time, I think it's a little bit easier to get your head around. But basically there are all these possible futures, and in these possible futures exist these 2 different empires, but one of them can only exist if the other doesn't. And so on behalf of their empire, Agent Red or Agent Blue is traveling back and forth to kind of alter things a little bit to ensure that their timeline is the one that comes into being. But it is a constant war to do that. The novel itself is written in letters. I think how they did it is Max Gladstone wrote one character's letters, and Amal El-Mohtar wrote the other character's letters, and they start taunting each other. They kind of get to know each other. They know who is working against them or who they've managed to kind of pull the rug out from under, and then they start flirting. And then it is a love story. That's something that is very well known about this book. It's epic, short love story, but where they leave messages for each other. It's not just a piece of paper hidden under a rock. It'll be, they write a message in the rings of a tree. So it's weird, and you're never quite sure where you are, but there is enough narrative here, and the emotion ramps up, and you can see their relationship change as well. So I loved it, but it's one of those where I really felt like I had to just surrender to the weirdness. But what did you've read it?
I don't know. That made me like it more because I really struggled with this book, potentially because it felt so abstract.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a rooting in if this happens, if there only one can exist, and understanding that. So it felt quite ethereal. Like it didn't really feel like rooted in like a reality where I was like rooting for the love story.
I agree. It feels really abstract.
Yeah, which I think if you like that stuff, I think you probably love this book. And that's probably why it has become such a kind of word of mouth bestseller.
Yeah, and it came, so does the name Bigolas Dickolas mean anything to you?
I don't think so. I don't think that's a real name.
So,
is that a real person?
It's not their birth name.
Okay, for sure.
There's a Bigolas Dickolas, Wolfwood, I believe is the full name.
Can you just say it one more time?
Bigolas Dickolas.
Okay.
Another?
Do they know? Okay, carry on.
Okay. He did a series of viral tweets in 2023 that just catapulted the book back into the bestsellers. I think the authors have written blog posts about it, about how they have genuinely made more money off the back of this unhinged series of tweets that just basically told people, grab you by the throat, you go to Barnes and Noble, you buy this book, you repay me. Like, they just loved it so much. Is it ringing a bell?
Yeah, it is.
I think there were quite a lot of pieces written about it at the time, because Twitter, now X, compared to other social platforms, virality on that platform doesn't necessarily lead to book sales. And that actually, I'd not seen something like this happen, where a fan could just post something that they loved in a very authentic way. Fair play, Bigolas Dickolas. Do you want to say it?
No, I don't. This is called Heatwave by Victor Jestin. It was translated by Sam Taylor from the French.
That's tiny.
Thank you. That is tiny.
Is that your shortest one?
This is my shortest one. Do you
How
want
many
to guess?
pages is that? About 5?
104. None of mine snuck in
that's
under 100.
short.
I think it's hard to find a book under 100. I would
think
welcome
at that
recommendations.
point, I reckon as a publisher, you're sticking a few extra pages in.
Yeah, true. Yeah, this is really short. I think you can easily read this in one sitting, and I think you would really benefit from that. Not you particularly, anyone. This book is really dark and a bit nightmarish.
It doesn't look dark from the cover.
Doesn't look dark, looks, and that is what is so scary about it. It's like exciting childhood summer holiday.
What are we seeing for the listeners?
We're seeing Heatwave. We're seeing like a book with a beach. We're seeing a book. We're seeing a book with umbrella sun loungers. It's beach. You would think beach read.
You'd pick that up and you'd expect happiness.
I wouldn't read this I would not read this on the beach.
Okay.
This is one of those like cloying, horrible, dark novels. There's a bit of a Claire Keegan or Sarah Moss in this. It's really claustrophobic. Do you ever have that feeling where you have a dream, and in the dream you've done something awful, and you are like living with the guilt of it, and then you wake up and you are like so relieved that that isn't what happened. Yeah. So this book follows Leonard, who is on a summer holiday in the south of France. He goes for a walk late at night, and he sees a boy hanging to his death, and he watches it happen.
Gosh.
Then,
God, that is so dark.
It's so dark, and that is so early on.
Okay.
So it's heavy for me.
So if that doesn't sound fun to you as a reader,
not for you, don't read it.
Don't read it.
Not even in a panic, just in a calm, collected way, he decides he needs to bury that body. So he then buries that body.
Oh, what a decision.
Wakes up the next day, goes about his life with knowing that he's done that. As people start to wonder where the boy is, as the police start to get involved, it gives you a really horrible, intense...
Do that.
You don't really ever understand why. I think you just give you that intense, horrible feeling of you've made a huge mistake. And okay, maybe now you could just own up. Like maybe now you could just own up. You just go through this, in theory, idyllic summer holiday, but with that hanging over him, and he's a child. I can see that you're literally squirming, so I think this maybe is too.
It's not for me.
It's not for you. It is little. I would say it's like a 7 out of 10 weirdness.
Yeah.
And the weirdness comes from just like how strange the behaviour is.
Yeah.
And how fascinating to read.
Why would you do that? What's his name again?
Leonard.
Why did you do
Leonard.
that?
I know.
It's so little.
It's so little. I don't think I could have read it for longer. Like if it was like a week of him on holiday with this secret, like it really is really affecting.
Yeah. One of the quotes on the back, a short, sharp shock of a novel.
Truly that.
Yeah, that sounds really upsetting.
Yeah.
Even reading the blurb is upsetting me, actually.
Yeah, so I do recommend, not as a beach read, if you're into dark books, if you're into like
which
dark,
lots of people are,
weird,
weirdos.
we talked about femgore.
Yeah.
God, don't call the listeners weirdos.
So sorry.
I'd like to apologise.
Think about it.
Like we talked about femgore, and I think actually maybe I hadn't identified. I think I do have a taste.
You quite like a dark book.
Not all the time, and not in certain ways, but like in some ways.
Yeah.
Ella, what is your next book?
My next book is It Lasts Forever and Then It's Over. I never have a copy to hold up. I've actually got one today.
It's fun.
Yeah, lovely. It Lasts Forever and Then It's Over by Andy Marcken. This is my first Fitzcarraldo book.
Yeah, which they're always so pretty.
I really enjoyed this. I read
I've not even heard of it.
When did I? Oh, I think for this episode, I had 2 that I knew I was going to do. And then I thought, I've got room in my life for another one. And, I can definitely read it because they're small. So I did a lot of research around books I thought I'd like that were short and weird. And this one just kept coming up. Read it, loved it.
How little?
This might be my shortest one, 132 pages.
Little. And
Not as little as yours, admittedly.
No. How weird?
My least weird. It's a 7.
So what is that book about?
This book is about. So zombie is a word that has not been used in the blurb copy. I'd expect the Fitzcarraldo audience is a more literary reader and maybe not hugely into zombie fiction. I like zombies. Of all the nasties, yeah, zombies feel a bit safer to me.
I'm quite into zombies, you know.
Are you? Why is that? I just feel like they're quite slow.
Is it because you think that you could survive?
A bit.
Part of me thinks like, oh, I'd give it a go.
I think I could give it a go in a way that with some of these other, what do you call them? Monsters.
Yeah.
I couldn't. If you like zombies, it's about a zombie. If you don't, it's just about a creature. The heroine of the novel is undead. All the kind of events of whatever has kind of caused this pandemic of zombiness have already happened. We're not at all concerned with how this came to be, just that she is in this new world. She's unnamed for the whole novel because she can't remember her name. She's so alive in so many ways, and she's so full of longing for her former life, even as she can't quite remember. So details of it kind of come to her in flashes, and you really feel this longing with her for her life before, but you also feel this certainty that she can never, ever go back to it. The tone is, so it's really sad. That part of it is really sad. Her tone is quite observing and detached throughout the whole thing, which gives it this kind of really sedate pace. And it's got this sadness, but it's almost more wistfulness than it is heartbreak. It also made me laugh quite a lot, especially at the beginning. There are a couple of laugh out loud moments, there's a couple of icky bits, little bit of flesh eating, little bit, which I don't like.
No.
Famously. But it's quite funny. Like she's losing body parts. They're just detaching from her.
You're smiling. Is that funny? Yeah. Oh, okay. Because you wouldn't.
Because she's just observing it and she's not feeling any pain. She's just like, oh, my arm. And she's like trying to reattach her arm. There's a bit where she and her head are now separate. And it's a weird book, okay?
Yeah, sure. We're buying in with that this week.
I make no excuses. But there's a bit where she is able to watch her body and feel some things with her body, but then watch with her head.
Oh.
I found it funny. I don't know if that's how it was intended. So the humour is limited, but there's a few bits where I just laughed in surprise.
And maybe a bit of like a shock surprise of like, oh my God, that's happened. Yeah.
Well, yeah, okay. It is second person in places, which I know lots of people don't love. I think if it's done well, I actually really like second person. But she kind of slips in and out of it. I wouldn't think of this as a second person novel, but there are times where she addresses somebody that she can only remember as you, but it's a you who loved her and that she loved, and she remembers that he's dead, but she doesn't remember how or where or what his name is. I think that it's less weird than some of the others that I've brought because there is a narrative structure where she remembers the feeling of being loved and she remembers that she felt that out west. So she kind of leaves this kind of, I think they're at a hotel, this congregation of zombies who are kind of talking sometimes sensibly, sometimes nonsensically to each other. And she ends up kind of just going on her own and traveling west in search of that feeling. It's really strange. It's sad, really sparsely written, but with that kind of unexpected humour in places, particularly in the first half of the book. So it's not one that I'd ever heard of before I started prepping for this episode, and now I'm so glad I read it, and I will probably read it again.
I'm the most into that one, I think. I'd definitely read that.
Do you want to borrow it?
I'd love to borrow that.
And this is maybe the first time I've engaged with that kind of content that is from the point of view of the zombie.
We finally hear from the zombies.
Finally, the zombie's perspective.
My last book, before I reveal the name, when you were a child, did you ever wonder what would have happened if you had been cast as Hermione Granger?
Oh, I actually didn't have those aspirations.
I didn't necessarily have those aspirations, but there was a part of me for years that was like...
As Hermione.
No, not Hermione, but part of me that for years that was like, why didn't my parents take me to the open audition?
You've got the perfect glasses.
And I was skinny, I had glasses, I was a reader, like I really could have done it. Yeah. I was being pursued by a Dark Lord, and I really could have done it. And that feeling, I think I really remember. For various reasons, I'm not as invested in Harry Potter now as I was as a child, but this book kind of looks at the idea of Martin Hill is 10 years old. He gets down to the final 2 to play Harry Potter.
Amazing.
He doesn't get it. And then it follows his life as he adjusts to having to live with the juggernaut, the inescapable juggernaut of Harry Potter in his life as a constant reminder of like his failures.
What a fantastic setup.
It's a really weird, surreal setup. I would say weird, 7 out of 10 weird.
Okay.
Maybe 6 out of 10 sure. I think this comes in at, again, about 200. It's by David Foenkinos, translated by Megan Jones from the French. I really recommend it. It's strange. It is strange.
Okay.
I can't believe you didn't wonder about being Hermione.
I don't know. I just didn't. I knew I was going to be a star on a podcast one day.
It's really good. It also goes on all these tangents of like the film was being made or like certain things happening in there, like Harry Potter brand. Like it goes off on odd tangents, and it then again, like I said about hard copy, it starts off with this kind of surreal hooky line, but then goes into something deeper, and it goes into like his kind of trauma and like what has happened to him, and look at like the male ego and like the fragility of it.
Is it fun? Is it a fun read?
Yeah, it is a fun read.
The concept is so fun.
The concept's so fun, and I think that's what really draws you in. It probably does go to quite a few dark places.
Yeah.
Like he does really struggle as the years go on, and some of that potentially is from what happened, him not getting the part. Some of that is his idea of what is projected onto him as someone who failed.
Yeah.
Even though he, in other parts of his life, hasn't.
How do you think you would have coped had you been to the open audition and gotten so close?
Got close, but not got it.
So it's called second best.
Yeah.
So if you were second best.
I do think that would stay with you.
Yeah.
And it's not like Daniel Radcliffe disappeared.
No.
He's done all right.
I think I'd like to read this one. I might borrow yours.
Yeah, it's really good. I think you would like it.
My final book is Treacle Walker by Alan Garner. So it was shortlisted for the 2022 Booker Prize, first published the year before. Have you read it? Have you heard of it?
No, but I've seen this cover everywhere, and I feel like I do want to read it. So
borrow this one as well.
Convince me, I guess. How weird, how little?
This is my weirdest one.
Great.
This is so weird. It is. So it's 160 pages of weird. So medium short, but maximum weird, I think. It does have a plot that I will tell you some things about, but you're almost always lost. From one sentence to the next, I would say I didn't understand what was being said. I do feel like I had to relax, just read it. And then on a macro level, I felt like I could see where the narrative was moving. I felt like I wasn't clever enough to understand the details that were going on.
I also can't imagine you enjoying that feeling of not knowing.
So my mum had read it and recommended it, and her review was that she finished it and then went straight back to the start and started reading it again, which she's never done before. So immediately I was interested, and then she sent me a copy because she wanted to talk about it. So that was my way in. I probably wouldn't have just read reviews that said, this is a really weird book.
Yeah.
Read it. Because it's maybe on the more literary side. Alan Garner he writes for children and adults. And my mum had read, I think when she was a child, The Weirdstone of Brisingamen, which is a kind of fantasy. I think the kids are called Susan and Colin, which is absolutely classic.
Say the title again.
The Weirdstone of Brisingamen.
You're saying some very funny words today.
And I get a point for the weirdest word. So I'd loved that series. I think also interesting names. And then this was my first foray into his adult books. So the plot, such as it is Joe Coppock squints at the world with his lazy eye. He reads comics, collects birds' eggs, treasures his marbles. When Treacle Walker, who's kind of like a rag and bone man, he appears on the Cheshire Moor one day, a wanderer, a healer, and he has this cart that he's always kind of pushing. An unlikely friendship is forged, and a young boy is introduced to a world that he never could have imagined. He wanders out into the marshy wood behind his house, and he meets Thin Amron, a naked man with copper-brown skin and a hood made of leather. This bog man informs Joe that his lazy eye is the result of a glamory, a gift that enables him to see time collapsed, to perceive the eternal in the now.
Of course, yeah, I absolutely know what you're talking about, sure.
And then through the kind of course of the novel, he gets drawn into a sort of mirror world. And like there's a bit where he's in the comic books that he's reading. So the narrative is suddenly comic book language, and he's fighting alongside Kit the Ancient Brit against Wizzy Wizard and the Brit Bashers. So it's so weird.
Okay.
I think that makes it clear, yes. It is so weird. Because of that, I really enjoyed reading the 1-star reviews.
Did people hate it?
It includes the actual story is utter nonsense.
Sure.
virtually unintelligible, and my favourite, word soup.
Unintelligible that's quite mean.
It's quite mean. But The Guardian called it the book of a lifetime, and it was shortlisted for the Booker. There's people in both camps. I think, for me, I would read it again. I think you have to just embrace the fact that you do not know what's happening and not mind. And I think the people who didn't like it just needed it to make sense.
Yeah.
And I was okay with that as a kind of experiment because it's 160 pages. So you can get through that and just see how you feel at the end of it.
And did you feel like you enjoyed it then when you'd finished and you could piece something together of it? Or did you then, like your mum, go back and read it again?
I don't know how much I pieced together at the end. And I think I spent quite a lot of time, Treacle Walker, ending explained.
Yeah.
Trying to get someone to tell me, oh, now it all comes together. You were just waiting for the last chapter.
But it's not like that.
I don't think it is like that. I think it's the whole way through. It's, really abstract. There's a Reddit review of it, and I'm sorry I don't have the name of the Redditor, but that kind of summed it up for me. Alan Garner is too much a master of the myth and folklore of England for any reasonable reader to expect to understand all of his references. And the story is too lightly sketched, like the horse on its cover, and within its pages, a few brief lines stand in for fuller illustration, to believe that Garner expects full understanding of its meaning. He's offering suggestion, not explication. A reader can choose to find flaws in this approach or perhaps even give up entirely and walk away befuddled. Or you can just go with it and let the old master carry you away. That really sums up how I felt. Also, that's how many pages it has, and this is how big the spacing is.
Oh, guys, this is tiny. You can squeeze this in by the end of the year. Okay, great.
But look at what's on that page.
Yeah, just obviously most books have letters on the page, but literally just letters.
It's just letters.
Word soup.
Word soup.
Now, we have got a listener question from Sophie for our shelf help section. Please get in touch. We cannot solve all your problems, but we can do anything bookish. If you're watching on Spotify or YouTube, you can leave a note in the comments. Let's hear from Sophie.
Hi, Ella and Jake. I've always been an avid reader of books, but I'm recently a new mum and do not have time to be sat down on a sofa reading anymore. So I'd really like to start getting into audiobooks a bit more. I haven't listened to an audiobook since I was a child. And I'm wondering if you had any recommendations for books that are particularly good, having had them read to you rather than reading them yourself. Thank you.
Okay, so you're more of an audiobook listener, so I feel like you will be better at this.
I am an audiobook listener. First of all, congratulations, Sophie.
Congratulations, Sophie.
I'm very happy to help you in your hour of need. So I am an audiobook listener. I almost always have an audiobook on the go alongside a physical, and that will often be very different. So I'll use it as to kind of break it up. So if I'm reading non-fiction, I'll have a fiction audiobook on the go, or it might be just a different genre. So there are two that come to mind. One of them I'll do very quickly, which is Impossible Creatures by Katherine Rundell. That is a children's book, but I loved the audio of it. And if you loved audiobooks as a child, it might be a nice way in to listening again. And my main recommendation is Friends, Lovers and the Big Terrible Thing, written and read by Matthew Perry. Have you read?
I've not read this, but really want to read it.
So it's first published in 2022 and he died a year later. So it's a hard listen in places.
He narrates the audiobook.
He narrates the audiobook. That's partly why I was so captivated by it, because it's Chandler off of Friends. It's a voice that you know so well, telling his own story. I thought it was so vulnerable and so honest about his struggles with addiction. I mean, it's very much the title, Friends, Lovers and the Big Terrible Thing. Friends being the TV show, his celebrity lovers, and then the Big Terrible Thing is his addiction to alcohol and drugs, which he struggled with for his entire life. That makes it sound quite bleak, and it is in places, but it is always peppered through with the first time he met Jennifer Aniston and like the last episode of Friends they recorded. So if you're a Friends fan, I think it has something fun and light for you there as well. It obviously has, it feels less light because we know as listeners that this is one of the last pieces of content that he put out, that this... But then I'm so glad that he got to tell his own story in his own words and that it is so honest and vulnerable. It feels like his kind of last gift to us.
Well, I've also done one that's quite dark, and I wonder whether...
Sorry, Sophie.
That is right for Sophie, but I think when my sister gave birth, I think you're surrounded by cuddly, fluffy toys and everything, and there's probably part of you that there's a different kind of stimulation from these. And I've also not done an audiobook. I've done an audio drama.
Oh, we'll allow it.
which is Audible's 1984. That was released last year. And what I love about this is there's like amazing sound design. There's like a score that was recorded with a 60-person orchestra at Abbey Road.
Gosh.
Like it's big.
Cinematic
Audio. The cast is amazing. So you've got Andrew Garfield as Winston. You've got Andrew Scott as O'Brien. You've got Cynthia Erivo as Julia. I don't know if you've heard of her.
I've heard of her names.
And even Tom Hardy as Big Brother himself. So it's really big names. And I think that kind of darkness is like something that's captured so well in the audio.
Yeah.
And I can really recommend that just as like a real like sink in, I'd say escape. Obviously you're escaping
very
somewhere
immersive.
horrible, but immersive is probably the word.
Great. So we've got probably the darkest 1984. Then we've
Yeah.
got Friends, Lovers and The Big Terrible Thing. And if
Yeah.
you're just thinking that's really not what I was
If
looking for,
Sophie's
guys.
thinking that's not why I
Then
wrote
Impossible
in.
Creatures.
Yes.
First one, children's book, magical creatures, and just a really fun, good listening experience. Thank you for listening to Stack. You can find details of all the books we've talked about today in the show notes. If you've enjoyed the episode, please consider leaving a review. It's the best way to support the show. And no matter how little or how weird your comments are, we love reading them.
The Stack is an independent podcast production.
It is produced by Jake Williams and Ella Horn.
Our theme music was created by Thomas Clark.